Hi, it's been a while. The point of this channel, conversations you didn't know you needed, and I think that's where the best conversations come. You talk to a stranger about something that you're not thinking about on a daily basis, and you have ideas about these things that you didn't even know you had because you never had the opportunity to expound upon them in your own thought process. This is one of those things. I feel like I'm a philosopher at heart, and hopefully I can open up your mind in a certain way. I've realized throughout my life, as somebody who has been very influenced by media and by video games and fiction, movies or fantasy novels, television series, graphic novels, all of this media really makes a huge impact on us. I am the living example of that. There's a lot of connection between spiritual philosophies and religious practices and the cult followings of video games and other forms of media, whether it be Twin Peaks, Kingdom Hearts, World of Warcraft, or anything like that. Practical magic was a super trendy thing recently, coming back up. Why is this? I think it is probably from this deep need that we all have as beings who have souls. That's not exactly what this video is about. What I was thinking is this overlap between structured religion and video games or things that have cult followings. I think a lot of people who are really invested in things, the lore, the story, the history, the structure, the mechanics, those all become so important and makes such an impact on who we are as people and how we perceive things in our reality. And that's why I say World of Warcraft was my religion for the longest time, because we think of a religion as this like structured, disciplined way of living that has its own story, its own history, and its own traditions. In that way, these fictional worlds that are created by just magnificent brains of humans, or the fascinating storylines and the architecture that is created for these MMORPGs or other kinds of media. There are multiple things that are in both that are making such an impact on what it means to be a human and on how we actually use the information that we receive through these different tools to really get a better understanding of ourselves and our connection to God. And so I think for a lot of people who are not religious, who don't believe in God, I think they don't even know their own interests actually are highlighting the same things that are being highlighted and looked at through many different traditions. And I think that is so cool. And I think it really shows us why so many of these video games hit us in the heart, why so many of these cinematics, again, definitely heavily talking about World of Warcraft here, these cinematics are just so fantastic, and it's drawing on all of the history we know, all the background, all the connections, all of the things that we understand. And so really what I'm seeing is this mirror of human existence and of what is beyond. And it's very much all intertwined. In a way, World of Warcraft mirrors world religions and our actual relationship to God more than some other forms of media. And things such as Catholicism are institutions that were created to really truly understand that soul, who we are and who God is. And in a way, they mirror each other, but they also are a part of the same thing we are trying to understand as humans. And this process of self-actualization of who we are we in the universe, why are we here, and what is morally correct, what is good for us to do, and what is not righteous, right? This is a whole story that's been being told throughout history. And without fantasy, without fiction, without structure, form, stories, lore, background, right? Without the background, without the structure and the disciplines and the practices that are passed down through lineages, without this in a fictional world or in our real world with our relationship to divinity, really what we're seeing is this relationship to self-actualization and this process and this journey of what life even is. And I think it is silly to assume that any of us know, because the only ones that know are God and God, the Trinity. We are talking about Catholicism here. So this video is going to be an essay kind of talking about not just the interplay and interconnection of World of Warcraft and Catholicism. That sounds crazy, I know. We're just philosophizing, guys. Don't forget that. This is to expand your mind. It is not to try to create a cult that combines Catholicism and World of Warcraft. Not what we're doing here. We're going to look at the overlap, the interplay, and also what makes them unique, and also what role they really do play in this process of understanding ourselves, understanding our soul, and maybe being able to contemplate the deeper things that we don't actually fully know, and how to meditate on these things and to meditate on them with our soul growth in mind is so important. And I think it's also a reason that if we're guarding not just our heart, but guarding our minds, that we choose wisely what we are going to do, how we are going to approach these things, right? Because sometimes there is media that is harmful for some people. Some people will be severely anxious after seeing some media. Some people will be triggered and go through dark feelings because of some media. This is just the case because we're all unique individuals. And in this same way, we need to make sure that we are entering into practices and disciplines with a healthy mindset. And I think what is so fun about fiction and fantasy is you can go into World of Warcraft and do it just for fun. And you can also go into World of Warcraft and understand the lore and the background and the history, and you can choose decisions based on who you really truly are and how you feel morally. And I think we can use anything for that. And I think a lot of people who are deep thinkers, deep feelers, we tend to do that with media, whether we realize it or not. This is genuinely us trying to understand ourselves being reflected in here. Who are we in this world? And who is right? What is happening in this mystery, in this intriguing, mysterious place where none of the connections are fully solidified? Where can we connect? Where can we bridge that gap and understand ourselves on a deeper level? The things that really go into both of these, World of Warcraft and Catholicism, what do they both have that I think is really showing us the importance of not just streamlining information, but streamlining our own soul growth? And I think this is what a lot of practices and disciplines, what I would consider discipline, the actual activity that you do in a disciplined way. I think this is how we grow and develop this skill of understanding ourselves on a deeper level. And the way that both Catholicism and World of Warcraft have, it is through things such as tradition and lineage, the deep lore and story and historical background, and the structure and actual mechanics that actually makes up the meat and potatoes of these entire worlds of understanding. One of them, a fictional world that mirrors not just our reality, but our actual divine connection. And Catholicism as an institution that shows our connection to the divine. And so it's like World of Warcraft is mirroring some parts of this actual connection to the divine, and that is our actual life. And we are, in a way, doing the same thing on a bigger scale. So imagine it this way. When you are a religious person, or you follow a specific discipline, or you do specific practices on a daily basis to develop yourself and grow and self-actualize as a human being, that is the journey of our life. And in World of Warcraft, other MMORPGs, and other very deeply lore-centric games that take a lot of grinding and have different morals and different groups coming together to meet this storyline, what's happening there is it's a mirror of that as the player character. So we are learning about ourselves as a player character in a different world. And that is such a cool gift that a long time ago we weren't able to do that. Maybe through stories we could live through the heroes. Maybe through oral traditions we learn these great stories and we see ourselves in those stories and we say, how can we be like this? But on such a bigger level, thanks to technology, we are now able to be in a different world and experience it in a way that helps us self-actualize, because there's the same moral situations, there's the same ideals, there's the same difference of opinions that are all throughout this world, and we get to see the interplay in a way that we can see in real life as well. And this mirroring effect really teaches us more about ourselves if we open up to it. In the same way, a lot of Christians who don't know much about the history, don't know the story, don't understand what Jesus did and all of that, don't understand the Trinity, don't understand theologically what's going on, I think we miss that piece that leads to our self-actualization. And in this way, what I'm saying is, if you want to be more self-aware as a gamer or as somebody looking at a piece of media, what if we digested this media from a deeper level and from a level where we are actually seeking to discipline ourselves? World of Warcraft became my religion. I dug deep into the lore. I understood it on a deep level to where I actually realized the morals I had, the qualities that I care about, the things that matter to me in relationships and in my discipline. That taught me so much about myself that I actually brought into the real world. Now, if we did that in that way, and we also did that with our religion, we also did that with any practices that we are trying to develop, we also did it with things that maybe aren't religion, this journey of self-actualization really just comes down to these really powerful and impactful things, as I said before. Traditions and lineages that have been passed down, these great practices and ideas that have been passed down that we have developed over time, that other people have understood on a deeper level, and we can now dive into that based on their wisdom, that lineage, that tradition, that they've already figured it out, and now we can continue in that line. And then the story, the deep story, the lore, the background, whether it be Azeroth and all of the things that happened, the things the Titan built, the origination, the Naru lore, that history, the visions of Prophet Velen. If we can see them from a bigger lens, we understand the background, the history, and then we're playing now, understanding all of that, we can get a deeper insight into the lives of those beings. And through that, we can mirror that into our own lives and reflect on it. And it actually can make an impact in the same way that Catholicism has all of the saints and the background of the biblical teaching and theology, understanding all of the stuff that goes into that, understanding what has happened historically, the events that have happened that have led to other people breaking off, to understanding the laws and understanding how those things have changed. That really helps us reflect on who we are in the grand scheme, on who we are to God, who we are as the creators and movers of these player characters. In a way, we are mirroring that creative aspect into a player character where we are basically learning and growing and self-actualizing in the same way that we are meant to in Christ. The final thing, which is the structure and the mechanics. Again, this discipline needs structure. Just like children need structure in order to grow and feel stable in their home environment, we need a foundation and the building blocks and the mechanics and the disciplines and the practices that have been passed down over time. In Catholicism, this is things like prayers and the rosary, things like actually following specific set structures for specific things, right? That is, on a very basic level, the structure helps with that. And in the same way, the mechanics for boss fights or the structures or the building up of things, the selling different clothes at the auction house or transmogrifying your character to look like a powerful hero, or doing anything in a specific way, upgrading your artifact weapons, getting your artifact weapons, following the quest lines. Those things, those structures allow you to not just progress in the game, but to also grow in a lot of ways, whether it be in wealth or in materials or in learning how to do different raids better, in being able to be a better rogue. In so many ways, am I tanking correctly? What can I do to become a better tank so that I can protect my team? In this way, this is this journey, this process of self-actualization through this development over time because of the specific structures. And you can see this in everything. I just wanted to show you this overlap in World of Warcraft and Catholicism because this is in everything, in every piece of media, in every piece of something that has a cult following or something that has a religious following that has happened over time. This is why World of Warcraft is still the best MMORPG of all time. The reason for that is that it was created a long time ago and it has such a beautiful history, background. The structure is good. They made sure it was streamlined and efficient and that everything worked well when it first came out. Everyone was so excited because World of Warcraft had all of the perfect things from all the games and it fixed all the kinks. It smoothed out everything that wasn't good about it before and was perfectly streamlined into a wonderful player experience in the mechanics alone, right? And so in this way, World of Warcraft, because of the mechanics, because of the structure, it is a legacy now because of how long it's been, 20 something years of World of Warcraft being online? Yeah, no one's gonna be able to beat it. Why? It's because of that legacy. And in the same way, the Catholic Church, the church as a divine institution, has been around for so long. The different saints that we've learned about, all of this history, all of the background, and all of the people that have come through and learned and developed and grown. There is this huge, vast history and immense power that is found in Catholicism that I think really mirrors this same situation, and it's a different scenario entirely. And there's so many ways we could go thinking about this, but philosophically we see these building blocks of legacy truly are the lineage, the history, the lore, the story, and the way that we can actually practice alongside the story, alongside the people, the heroes of the past, and really learn who we are in the world, who we are to God, and who we are meant to be in this life, what we believe, what we're capable of, and our moral standpoint, how we can be integral members of society and of our life. And if you can do this with any form of media, with anything that you dig into, look at the structure, look at the background, look at the history, look at the symbolism, look and see if you can find any ancient stories with ties to this current one. Or if you see any pieces of a story that sound like a story that you've heard from a fable or from Greek mythology, from other mythologies, from a religious standpoint. What can you find? Because there's so much in there. There's so many beautiful golden nuggets, whether it be World of Warcraft being inspired by real world situations, which it is very often, or real world religions, which it is in a lot of aspects, or Catholicism that has this backbone of tradition, understanding, and righteous teaching. Whether you're Catholic or not, I just want you to see that there is this in so many factors, in so many places in life. In Pokemon, if that's going to be what you love so much. In something that you love so much, whether it be an anime or a movie you watched as a child, there is something that is very integral and tied to who you are as a person, what your soul is asking of you, and where your soul is wanting to be developed and grow, to be really truly who you were born to be and who you are in the eyes of God. And we were gifted these minds to create these things to really mirror to each other who we are meant to be and what our identity is, whether it be in Christ or in the hero from Azeroth. We are all mirroring that to each other so we can learn to be more light, to be who we were born to be, to our original blueprint, and to who we are as human beings.